And they're like swearing at me, booing me. I remember seeing 2 kids like sticking their fingers up. I was like, give it an hour and you'll be a fan.
Some stage in your life, was you homeless?
Yeah, I lived in a motorhome for 6 to 7 weeks, working in a couple of gyms at the time. I'd shower there because I had no running water in this thing.
Lawrence Okolie for the WBO Cruiserweight World Title.
Even now I get a lump in my throat and it's just such a feeling. I remember going to the corner, standing up and celebrating and just saying, if they rob me, I've got this moment where I know I've won. I've never been driven by money in my life. Winning the world title was for me. Beating Riakporhe was for me. Becoming undisputed against Zurdo was for me. Selfish reasons. Now I'm doing it more for my family. It's a different type of motivation.
I've got a question for you then. Would you take £1 million to fight Jake Paul?
I don't know,
April 26th, Tottenham Stadium, Brandon Glanton, 20 wins, 17 of those knockout.
It's only big fights, that's all I want.
You need to be almost training scared.
It's not a fear of them as a person, it's a fear of...
Everything's been ticked. What's the desire to still continue to fight? Chris Billam-Smith. I was about to say how you doing, but by the looks of your face, you've been better.
Yeah, a few marks was thrown this morning, but all good.
Big fight coming up, mate, but we'll get to that. I want to jump straight in with something that you said, Chris. You said, I'd get paid more if I trash talked. Does that annoy you?
The thing that annoys me is that that's the way the world is. Do you know what I mean? Like that the things that grabs headlines is trash talk and tables getting flipped and people mouthing off and eggs getting thrown or whatever. So I guess human beings, we like controversy and that's what it is. For me, be better if good manners, respect, do you know what I mean? And that sort of thing was honoured in a better way. And then, those fighters got the lion's share of the money flying around in the sport. But that's, at the end of the day, that's my personal preference. Everyone's different. A lot of people can switch it on and off, and they're lovely outside of the ring or outside the cameras. They turn it on for the cameras and they get more money for it and stuff like that, which is fair play to them. For me, I just feel like I'm not a complete. You can't. It's hard for me to do that, and a lot of kids watching. I've got a son myself. I mean, I don't want them growing up thinking it's all right to say this or do that. So for me, it's just sort of an integrity thing.
Yeah, that's the big thing with me, I think. Whether you or any of the other fighters out there like it or not, you are role models. And like you said that, we'll get onto your nickname, the gentleman, but I think it's important for role models to be gentlemen, because there's going to be young kids watching that thinking they've got to smash an egg over someone's head, or they've got to throw a table, or they've got to do this just for clout, where it can be annoying. I agree, where you just want it to be about the trade.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The job. That is it. I'll go off on one here. Sometimes you can be at a show and people are turning into the crowd, looking at a fight in the crowd like, can't the boxing be enough?
You pay money to watch professionals who've given their whole life to learn how to, box or fight. And then someone kicks off in the crowd, everyone watches that. I just never understood it. But that's not meant to happen. So people like stuff that's not meant to happen. People aren't meant to throw tables, say certain things, have fights in the crowd. So people like stuff that's not meant to happen, I guess.
Yeah. Right, let's go right back then. So born in Epsom, Surrey, and moved to Bournemouth
when I was 3.
When you was 3. So you're proper.
Yeah, that's all I've ever known really is Bournemouth. I don't remember having any memories of living. I used to live in sort of South London in a little place called Tadworth. So that's why I was born in Epsom. So yeah, just don't have any memories of that. All my memories are of Bournemouth.
And a good childhood?
Amazing. Yeah. Like so privileged, genuinely so privileged. We had a massive, huge garden. Mum and dad were always just making, doing stuff for us. My dad was working away a lot. He worked in the film industry, so he was away Monday to Friday. Missed a lot of us growing up because of it. He'd be up in London working on the film sets, and then come back on the weekend. But it was all to provide a better life for us, and he did that. So very grateful for that. And like I said, massive gardens, playing footy out there. He got swings and a slide from like a local park from the council that was closing down a park. He got them, concreted them in our garden.
No.
Unbelievable. 2 older brothers, 7 years older and 9 years older than me. So had people to play with when they wanted to. If not, I'd be in the garden on my own, thinking I was David Beckham.
So all that being said, then why boxing? Because I'm very similar as well. I'm from Barnet, very north of London. It's not a bad area. Do you know what I mean? I had a nice upbringing. But for me, my dad boxed, so that was the route for me. But for you, why boxing then?
Well, I did a lot of sports as a kid. Tried everything. I love football. Always loved football. Like I said, I'd literally be in my garden on my own, putting chairs out to make a wall to take free kicks and stuff like that. So that kind of just because I wanted to be better and be the best free kick taker in my team. I wanted to be captain. I wanted to be penalty taker. That was just always the thing I wanted to be. Sort of the man. So that all these other sports, I tried loads. I didn't start boxing until actually I went to 5 to 10 sessions in between the age of 12 and 14. And then when I went to college, I met my mate Dean, and he was boxing, and I went training to stay fit for football, get fitter for football, basically, just Sunday league. And then I went and watched him after a few months, and I was like, we're all there, chanting his name. And I was like, that must be amazing, having all your mates there, they're chanting for you. That must be unreal. And then 10 months later, I was like, well, basically that night I was like, on this show, I want to box on this show next year, which was the home club show. But 10 months later, I was in the ring and my first bout, and then I had my second fight on that same show. And just loved it. Everyone there, just there for you. And I think that was, like I said, I always wanted to be the man of the team if I was in a team sport, like the captain and stuff like that. But boxing gives you that individuality. It's all on you. There's I've had games. I remember a game when I was 10 at the time, playing football. We were against the best side in the league, loads of Bournemouth Academy players. And they smashed us 5-0. But I had the game of my life because I was playing centre. I was playing sweeper because they were just all over us. And because I was one of the better players in the team, I was like, right, I'll just go centre back. I was doing diving headers off the line, saving them, and I was all over the shop. But I had the best game of my life. They tried to sign me up after the game. I remember their coach coming up to me do you want to come and play for us? But I'd had the game of my life, but still lost 5-0. And I'm like, I can't do that. That frustrated me. That always stuck with me of that. No matter how good you are in team sports, no matter how much work you put in, how hard you try, you can still lose. And I hated that. I loved the control of it's down to me. And that's how I see boxing. And that's what I loved about it. And it was never, when I started boxing, it was never to be a boxer. It was just to get fit for football. And then I had a fight, and then I loved it. But it was just a hobby.
Yeah.
Because I could constantly get better at it. And that was just the thing I loved. It's just that, okay, can't beat that guy. That guy beat me. So where was I going wrong? And I just solving that puzzle. And I just loved it.
What did you win as an amateur?
The only thing I won was the novice
because you fought Dion Juma, Jack Massey, Chev Clarke, Vidal Riley. Anyone else I've missed out? Any names?
They'll beat me. I said all of them beat me. Trying to think now. No, not really. Not off the top of my head. Can't think of any.
So, how many amateur fights did you have?
43.
43. Lost to some decent names. At what point did you think, I'll have a go at being a pro? How did that transition happen or come about?
Well, I never really had the want to go pro. I can't wait to go pro. I never had that.
Yeah.
I was in the amateurs. 2012, I lost to Dion Juma in the ABA semi-final. completely outclassed me, was so much better than me, beat me by, I think, like 20 points or something. And then...
Would that have been 4-2s then?
No, that's 3-3s.
3-3, right.
So it wasn't like the 20 point and you get a stoppage system. Right. But end of the third round, it beat me by, I think it was like 31-11 or something like that in the old point scoring system. And then I got an assessment for GB for getting to the semi-finals, and I never ever thought, like, I remember when my coach told me, like, Chris, you've been invited up to GB, like, to have an assessment, and I was like, really? Like, these are the best kids in the country, like, and I lost in the, like, so yeah, but like the way you like box and stuff, blah blah, get to semis, that's what you get. And I think I'd had 20 fights at the time, and I thought, wow, that's amazing. So I went up there, first assessment. This was I was 86 kilos at the time, so they only had a 91 and an 81 category, and I was never making 81. Never felt comfortable getting down that low. I was 81 for the first 10 fights of my sort of boxing, then after I just grew and filled out. Yeah. And then, I was like, okay, well, if they've already called me up, let's get better and get to win these ABAs next year and go on and, and that was the aim, to get on GB and eventually get into the Olympics. So that was always my goal as an amateur, just that drive to become a member of the GB squad. And then had assessments the year after, because I got to the final and lost on points to Jack Massey. I remember Rob McCracken like sort of giving me a nod then, like, well boxed sort of thing. So it was a really close fight. Went up there, didn't get on. Same thing again. I was like, right, the next time I box, I'm going up to 91, because I was still in that 86 category, stuck in between two weight divisions. And I was like, I've reached the ABA final. Yes, I haven't won it, but all I can do now is win the ABAs at 86. That's as big as the goal can get. So I'm that close to doing it. I needed a bigger goal. So I was like, right, I want to box for my country. I want to box for GB. So I've got to go up to 91. Went up to 91, but had a shoulder injury. Ended up losing the quarters of the ABAs, then having shoulder surgery. Not long. Well, no, it was a while after actually in the end. But so I ended up having 18 months out. Came back in 2016. Got to the ABA final, lost to Chev in the final. Got on GB, had 3 assessments. And then I remember whilst sort of, when you get to the third assessment, it's 3 assessments, then you're either on or off. Like, there's
is that how it works now?
Yeah, you're not. Well, that's what it was.
Right.
2016 was just, you get to third assessment, then it's a yes or no. You're either on or you're not.
Yeah.
So got to third assessment, thought I'd get on. It was me, Chev, and Scott Forrest. I think they both had. No, Scott had a win over Chev. Chev had a win over me. And stylistically, Chev at the time was probably better than me. Scott, I felt like I'd boxed him quite well on the assessment, sparred him quite well. But yeah, didn't get on. And then I was just heartbroken. And like, I guess I'll go pro. But during that time, the sort of 15 months before that, I'd been sparring George Groves when he just started training with Shane, did a few rounds of David Hay because Shane sort of liked what I was doing with George. So David would bring me in for some speed work and stuff. And then I thought, well, I'm going to go pro and give it a go, because put all this work in, I'm not getting on GB. I'm 26 at this point. I was like, they're not going to, the next Olympics would have been 2020, or I would have been 30 years old. They're not going to be interested in me. There's young lads coming through. You have Vidal coming through, who's been on England before and stuff. Chev was on there, who obviously went to the Olympics in the end. And then, so I was like, I'm going to turn pro. I asked Shane, and he was like, yeah, maybe we can sort someone out sort of on a part-time basis. And managed to worm my way into McGuigan Gym, and that was where it started. But I remember going up there, Shane said, like, after we'd had a phone call, said, come in, can you come and spar George tomorrow? And then afterwards we'll chat about you turning pro. And I thought, like, he's got me into spar George, and the pro thing's just like, oh, because I said to him, I thought I'd ask you, and then if you can't bring me on, can you advise me where to go? So I thought he was just going to give me some advice where to go, mainly wanted me into spar with George. And then I sparred with George, and afterwards they called me into a room. There was Shane, both his brothers, and Barry sat in there in the little boardroom in their old gym in the office, and said, yeah, we'll take you on and pay you a retainer, and you know, you can box at home when you do ticket shows and stuff like that. And I was like, it's amazing. Nice. Like, you got a place to stay up here, like during the week. I was like, and I just remember smiling the whole way home. And my missus, I rang her. She was just like, how'd it go? I was like, yeah, it's like, I'll talk to you about it when I was going home. But like I was like, I wanted to surprise her because she's like, knew this was my dream. So I was just smiling the whole way home. And yeah, just such an opportunity. You know, kid from Bournemouth. Bournemouth's not known for its boxing. There's not a lot of boxing was ever going on down there at that time. So yeah, just so lucky to get that opportunity.
You said there was a place to stay and all that. I think I've heard, I don't know if you've told me this or I've seen it somewhere. Was it at some stage in your life, was you homeless? Right. Hope you're enjoying the pod. Big news. We have a sponsor. And it's something I use personally myself all the time. We are always on the move. Fight weeks, press tours, international events, and one thing I never mess with is public Wi-Fi. That's why I've got NordVPN. It keeps everything locked up. Bank info, logins, emails, all protected wherever I go. Plus the best part, when I'm traveling, it's nice being able to access the stuff I'd normally stream at home. Shows, news, or live sports coverage, all without hassle. It's quick, covers 10 devices, and it's honestly one of the best value tools out there. At £2.39 a month, it's cheaper than a cup of coffee. To get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/first round, and our link will give you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. And there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the description below. We're extremely grateful for all the support we've had so far. And sponsors like this help us continue to bring you the best content in the boxing industry. And now, back to the podcast.
No, that was, I think that got taken out of context. Basically, I lived in a motorhome for 6 to 7 weeks.
Right.
On my mum's friend's driveway. I had no water or electricity or anything, but I was staying in this motorhome. I'd go inside, I'd go to a laundrette to do my washing. Because my mum's friend, like, they had loads of students and stuff, so I was always busy in their house. But we parked my uncle's motorhome on their driveway. My mum was going to stay in it well, because my mum and dad had split up, basically. Right. She was waiting to move into the flat her and my brother had bought, because my brother was travelling. They were renting the flat out. They're waiting for those people to move out. And I was going to move in the flat with my mum. And then she stayed in there one night and goes, can't do this. So she went and rented a place with one of her mates or something. Right. So I was stuck in this motorhome for 6 weeks, just, fending for myself. Pretty interesting time. I was working in a couple of gyms at the time, one of them Steve Bendel's gym. Yeah. Working there, so I'd shower there because I had no running water in this thing. And then, take my clothes down the laundrette. Probably good 6 weeks of growing up, to be honest. Like, I was so used to having my mum do all my washing and everything like that. And at the time when I met my now wife whilst I was living in it. She never comes to the motorhome. But I met her when I was living in it.
Could be a deal breaker.
Yeah. I met her when I was living in it. But then by the time I ended up having the first date with her, we were in the flat. I think it was actually the first night we were in the flat. I had a date with her. So, thankfully I wasn't,
You weren't on the Bournemouth pier drinking. No, I wasn't. You don't even drink, do you?
No, I don't drink. Drink. Like I said, mate, the last time I had a drink, you were on a stag do in Bournemouth, and it was that night, and that would have been August 2014. So that's we're going on nearly 11 years now.
I can't remember that night.
Me too.
So you've turned pro. What were the aspirations then? What were the goals? Or is it just fight at a time, see where this...
It's weird. In my head, I'm always long-term thinking, but never think I'm good enough. I'm not there yet. Like, it's always long-term thinking, but I believe I can get there. So I think for me, I remember having a conversation with Shane early on with Usyk was boxed in the Super Series at the time, I think. And I was saying... I was like, yeah, he's good. He'd box at the weekend, so we were chatting. I was like, So yeah, but it's like a few weeks into our training together, and I was like, yeah, well, you can train me to beat him, sort of thing. Shane's like, I'm good, but I'm not that good, sort of thing. Like, and rightly so. Then I was miles off of world level, absolutely miles off of it, and not saying I would beat him now, but I'm a lot closer than I was. So yeah, that was in my head. I knew I could always reach the top, but I knew I was miles off of it. So, my mantra is consistency builds success, which fits the initial CBS, of course, and that's kind of what I've just taken on, and I've always been like that, and just constantly looking at growth and progression and improvement, and always had, I believe I could achieve anything as long as you put the work in. So that was so it's a mixture of believing I can get there and then taking it a fight at a time and understanding the sort of smaller goals and the stepping stones on the way.
Is that where the nickname The Gentleman was born, as a pro? Or
yeah, I think I'd had 3 or 4 fights, and the lads in the gym, Shane was like, we need to think of a nickname, and do you have any nicknames? And Blaine, Shane's oldest brother, was phenomenal at nicknames. He'd come up with, everyone who was in our gym, I think he came up with nicknames. I think Kakachi used to box under Shane as well, and I think Blaine came out of the Apache Kakachi, and I thought, what a great nickname. And he used to make him up because they used to do the cyclone shows as well. Blaine used to make him up for opponents that would be coming in from abroad, like just stick a random nickname on him. But Shane said, I thought the nickname, it's The Gentleman. And I was like, okay. And then Blaine was like, no, it should just be Gentleman, like Gentleman Jim Corbett and stuff like that. And I was like, I quite like The Gentleman, because it's not, Gentleman Chris isn't the same as Gentleman Jim. It doesn't roll off the tongue as well. So, yeah. And then, I think purely it was because I was a bit, I was so grateful to be in the gym. I was surrounded by Josh Taylor, George Groves, all these phenomenal fighters, that I just, was so grateful to be there. I was probably super polite.
Well, you're better off with them picking your nickname as opposed to Tony Sims. I was lucky because I used to wrestle when I was a kid, with your mates in the garden, like wrestling and whatever, and they just said Dazzling Darren, so it always sort of stuck. But he gave John Ryder the Gorilla. He called Ben Hudson Catweasel. I'm sure there's some other dodgy ones in there. But you said, so you rattled through it, you made your debut, you beat Russ Henshaw. It's your 10th fight that is the kind of standout around that early stages. You lose to Richard Riakporhe, which was a very, very close fight. I remember thinking at the time, you could have nicked it. I'm not just saying that, it was very close when it was really, really close. What were the initial thoughts after that defeat?
Well, everyone ripped me off. Everyone ripped me off because I'd done nothing as an amateur of massive note. As a pro, I hadn't boxed anyone, and he'd come off wins against Sam Hyde and Tommy McCarthy and stopped them both. Sam Hyde on that massive eye swelling, but was getting beat. And then Tommy McCarthy cleaned out in 4 rounds. So he was on a bit of a roll. And then he had Dillian White backing him at a time as well. Yeah. It was on Dillian's undercard. So everyone, the hype is always the hype, and wrote me off. So I was just glad that I sort of proved myself at that level, and I was like, I belong here. I was like, give me another opportunity, and I'll sort of show you, that's not a fluke fight or whatever you want to call it, in terms of I'm just at that level for one fight. And I didn't even box that well. I knew I could have boxed better, which obviously since I've proven. But yeah, that was just, I was happy because the team had me down as winning, and if they're very, very harsh on scoring rounds, but I think a lot of the work I do, they know what I do. Like,
who's that? Sorry,
Shane and
they're very harsh
against me.
Yeah, they won't just blow smoke up your backside.
No, so they'll score rounds. If there's anything close round, then they think I've just nicked it. They'll give it to the other person.
Right, okay.
That's how they do it in the corner, because you see so many people go through the years, like, oh yeah, it's a close fight.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you've got it, or whatever. If you give all the close rounds to you, then you can ease off and think, yeah, you're flying here. But it's always like a focus till the job's done. Excuse me. And so I think they had me winning, and Josh Pritchard scores the rounds like between him and Shane. And as the next round starts, I'll go, who are you giving that round to? 10-9. I remember he has a little booklet with all of them in, and I was like, have you got that Riakporhe one? He's like, CBS or Richard or RR CBS, and he's got the score. And I remember said, can I keep it? So he ripped it out and gave it to me like a week later when he was showing me his book or whatever. And I kept that, and I've still got it now. Like just as motivation, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was gutted to lose that undefeated record, but felt like I announced it myself to sort of more viewers because it was on Sky and stuff like that.
But then the next 7 fights, I mean, it's got to be pinch yourself sort of stuff, because you pick up the British, Commonwealth and European titles. What would you pick out of those fights?
What do you mean, sorry?
So basically, after the next 7 fights, after that defeat, you pick up the British, Commonwealth and European titles. Out of those fights or those achievements, what stood out to you?
Beating Craig Glover in the next fight was a big thing. There was huge pressure for the Commonwealth. And I'd sparred Craig, and I knew he was good. He was a really strong. I remember him hitting me with a jab in the first or second round.
Solid.
And it's like, boom, like rocked my head right back. He'd been beaten, but by a heavyweight previously. And I think he might have been beaten by someone else as well, but was a good kid. But buzzing that I got that win. Obviously, I stopped him in the 5th. But so that was like a big thing. I had a belt now. That was on Eddie. Give me another opportunity after the Riakporhe fight to fight. So I was with Matchroom, and then we rattled off some good wins. The Chamberlain fight was a huge fight, I think, for me, because it was headlining in Bournemouth for the first time. First time they've ever had a televised show in Bournemouth. I'm headlining. I got a phone call 6 weeks before the fight, so 5 weeks of proper prep and sparring. The 10 weeks before I got the phone call, 10 weeks before was the Tommy McCarthy fight, so I'd had 6 weeks off waiting for my son to be born, because he was due 4 weeks after the McCarthy fight. He was 2 weeks late, and then I had 4 weeks of being a new dad and not much sleep, and then I get a phone call like, you can headline in Bournemouth in 6 weeks against Isaac Chamberlain. I just remember thinking, like, my initial thought was, that's too short notice for too hard a fight. Like, Isaac's good, like, I know he's very tricky and stuff like that, and what he does well. And Shane had a few phone calls. That was on a Thursday night. Then on Friday, we had a few more phone calls, and Shane said, look, mate, you'll punch him up, like, sort of thing, like, just sort of boosted me up. And I was like, right, okay. I remember just going down to the beach that night, shadowboxing on the beach on the sand for like 20 minutes. Like, I need to condition myself, right? And then the next day, it was a roasting hot summer. And next day, I flew up to a gym in Portsmouth to train with Josh Pritchard, do some pads with him. His gym was roasting hot, and I was so flat. But I was just needed to get as fit as I could. Probably the worst camp I've had. I remember sparring Dan Aziz once, and then afterwards walking off outside in a massive hump because I just sparred so bad and like just couldn't find myself because of what had happened over the previous couple of months. And so for me, that's a big stand-up fight, because mentally I got over something really good and, won 9 rounds to 3 on all judges' scorecards. The fight was an amazing fight. Sky loved it. Everyone loved coming down to Bournemouth. The fans were phenomenal. And we were very lucky because of the time of year, and that week was just amazing weather. We had the workout on the beach, the weigh-in on the beach, the press, all that was on the beach. So yeah, just phenomenal fight. So for me, that always stands out as sort of a big turning point in my career.
How about this one for a standout then? Lawrence Okolie for the WBO Cruiserweight World Title. I mean, I get excited asking this question because I know the buzz, the feeling. I mean, talk to me about. Let's start with the fight itself.
Well, you like you said then, you know the buzz and the feeling. I remember watching your fight in my living room, but I didn't stay up for it. I think I watched it the next day. It was did you win it in August? Was it in August?
Yeah, it was.
It was, wasn't it? Yeah. So weird with dates. I remember staying up and watching. I'm being so happy when you won. Me and my brother watched it. So you, like you said, that feeling of just pure elation. But yeah, the fight itself, I was weirdly calm. I don't know whether I was ill on fight week, so I thought I can't waste any energy because I hadn't put on as much weight as I normally would. I put on probably 7 pounds less than I normally would, which against Lawrence, you kind of need all the energy because of the holding, and he's hard to hit. You got to work really hard to get success with him. So yeah, the first 3 rounds, I knew Shane was like, look, just stay safe the first 3 rounds. He will gas out with the way you fight, but you've got to stay safe. And I just applied pressure, but I felt really calm in there. I don't know whether it's because I've done hundreds of rounds of sparring with Lawrence or whatever it was, but I felt so calm in there. And then obviously in the 4th round, I dropped him, and that kind of just turned the fight round really, because he probably won the first 3. But I'd done enough. I remember after the 2nd round saying to Shane, I was like, he's falling apart already, because we knew he'd fall apart. I was like, he's falling apart already. And Shane's like, yeah, but you got to make him fall apart more. You got to start doing this. And having a go at me, because I'd lost the first 2 rounds. I was like, yeah. I was like, but I was really, really calm. I don't know what it was. I don't know whether I just felt like it was my night or moment, whatever, or that I had an unbelievable camp until fight week and when I got ill. So I knew how much work I'd put in, and I was very comfortable with that. So that was a big factor probably. But yeah, and then at the end of the 3rd, Shane's like, you got to start dropping that back more now. Like, creep up on him and drop back. And then I was like, literally do that. And he goes, left it to the body, and I sort of drop back, and he does a left hook to the head, and I drop back, and then just land that shot that drops him. And then, like I said, that turned the fight. And it was just from there about finding shots again. He still won rounds after that. He probably, some of the rounds he was still winning. But I just knew I could get to him.
Try and sum up the feeling in words when they read out and the new.
It was weird. So at the end of the fight, the bell's gone. I've hugged Lawrence, like, that respect's there. Shane's lifted me up. And then I remember thinking, I was like, I don't know what's gone on here. Like, you don't know what the scores are. I was like, they could easily rob me. Like, I've seen it before. I'm not, stupid. So I remember going to the corner, standing up and celebrating and just saying, I was thinking to myself then, like, if they rob me, I've got this moment where I know I've won.
Yeah.
But there's been no decision yet. So then, yeah, when he said it, he said 112, Big Mo did. And I was like, a draw. I was like, what? And then he said 115, 108, 115, 107. So then I knew, because of you can't get 107.
Yeah.
And that couldn't have been me with the 2 knockdowns of points, 3 knockdowns of points taken off, etc. So I was just like that's going to be, and then he just said, and the new, and I just, even now I get, a lump in my throat, and it's just such a feeling. So fortunate to have that moment in the stadium where I from 12 years old, I had a season ticket till I was for a couple of years. Used to sing players' names, thinking, imagine everyone singing your name. And I had that moment. Like, it was just, if you could pick a dream, as a childhood dream, obviously there wasn't boxing at the time, but as my life evolved at 18, 20, that's my dream. That I wanted to perform it on the pitch at Bournemouth. As a footballer, wasn't good enough. So as my life evolved and got into boxing, and that was the dream, winning a world title there against someone who, had barely ever lost a round in his career. I knew very well I'd wanted to box him as an amateur because he was number 1, and I always wanted to box the best. And to get that opportunity and was phenomenal. So to actually go out there and achieve it was just, you can't.
Being the champion, like you say.
Yeah, that's it. And one who, I think he'd beat, if you haven't boxed Lawrence before, he's so hard to beat. If you haven't shared that many rounds with him, that's the difference between me and everyone else. Is I've had that experience. My style helps, of course, but I've had that experience and know how to figure out what he does and what he doesn't, because he's so awkward. And I remember people saying, "Oh yeah, Lawrence is rubbish," like early on in his career when he's fighting for British title and stuff, and they're messy fights, but he's so effective at what he does. Even when he doesn't win by knockout, he wins wide on the cards in horrible messy fights, but he's still winning wide on the cards. He's very, very smart at what he does, and obviously, like I said, I had that experience, but what a night.
And then another poignant moment, you're going to Richard Riakporhe's stadium, Crystal Palace. You avenge that defeat. Good feeling, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird one, like nowhere near the same as the Lawrence one, because I just knew, I knew I had the beating of him. Like very, very satisfying. And then at that stage, I'd beaten every man I'd ever faced. You know, once I beat him, I was like, right, every man I've boxed, I've beaten. So obviously, I didn't beat him the first time, but I beat him the second time. So every man I'd boxed after that fight, I'd beaten and had a win over. So that was a very satisfying feeling, and the manner in which it was done was good. Although the judges were a bit dodgy. I think two had it 7-5 in rounds and a point taken off for him, and one had it 8-4 in rounds. And I just can't see how you can give him 3 rounds. Most people scored it 10-2, but which is kind of why you got to really push it and leave nothing to chance, which is like same with the scorecards and stuff like that. What they do in the corner. But yeah, it's satisfying win. Obviously, at a different football stadium as a football fan. I've done my own football stadium, and I kind of happy that's left alone for now. If I do Boxing again, then great. But if that's a standalone night, nothing's going to beat it. So to tick off another football stadium in Palace was wicked. Standing in front of the away fans when for my ring walk, come out to whatever by Oasis, and then Kano. I stood there and I'm just looking at them all as it's going on, and they're like swearing at me, booing me. I remember seeing 2 kids like sticking their fingers up. I was like, give it an hour and you'll be a fan. And and then funnily enough, my mate said that they were like behind some Riakporhe fans, and they were fine, like no arguments or anything. And they were obviously chanting my name, they were chanting Riakporhe, and then apparently in round 10, one of them just turned around and she goes, "Oh, Chris Billam-Smith." Just started chanting my name. So I won some Palace fans over as well. So yeah, a really satisfying night, amazing night to avenge a loss at another football stadium.
Right, look, we're going to talk about the last fight. We don't have to go into it for too long, but I was there. And I'll tell you one thing. Aside from you being in with a very good fighter, you showed some serious bollocks, didn't you? Do you know what I mean? Heart, courage. That was my real takeaway. You'd shown that in the past, but I think in that fight, it was, you can hold your head high, I think, in defeat. How's your thoughts? You've had plenty of time now to digest from the defeat.
Look, it is what it is in that sense. I know it's such an overused phrase, but I can't change. Once the results happened, I can't change it. So I have to learn from it and take it for what it was. And just a much better fighter than I expected. Zurdo, like I thought I'd be able to land a lot easier on him than I was. I thought I didn't think he'd be able to take my power as well as he did. Super, super tough. And yeah, I guess in a lot of ways underestimated areas of him. Not saying that he's not a good fighter, because he is. He's a phenomenal fighter, and I knew that. But I just thought I'd have too much for him. And I think the takeaways are he was better than me on that night. And I think I've learned so much from that defeat in terms of my strengths aren't enough. I need to work on all the other areas. If my tenacity and my power is not enough to do damage, then I need to find another way and have a plan A, B, C, D, and that's kind of what I've taken away from it.
Look, you've got a big fight coming up. This will obviously come out before your fight. But with all that I've listened to here and what you've achieved, like bearing in mind you started out in this sport with no real aspirations. I mean, you always thought you could go far, but with really only belief, self-belief. Why are you continuing? Like, what is that drive when you've ticked so many boxes? You're still wanting to get in there. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure financially, the Riyadh season you've done well, better than you could ever have dreamt of. Like I say, everything's been ticked. What's the desire to still continue to fight the hardest sport in the world?
I haven't fulfilled my potential, and I think that would be a massive regret. Would be not fulfilling my potential, because I know there's more left. I know I can improve, which is the plan. Is to show improvements in this fight. And yeah, there's, I've done well in my career, but it's once you achieve something, it never seems that big, right? So there's always a bigger goal, and
I disagree. I'm still dining out on it.
No, but you didn't finish on that fight. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like you still had goals after it. You still had obviously your other fights, and I think for me, there's still more to be done, and there's still more to come from me. Like I said, that mantra of consistency builds success is really important, and I think I can do more, and I can get more out of myself. And look, not that I've got an idea of going on forever, but there's always been a sort of a rough age and idea what I want to do, and that's the drive.
So April 26th, Tottenham Stadium, Brandon Glanton, the American, looks at his record, 20 wins, 17 of those knockout, only 2 defeats, never been stopped. Potential banana skin?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm assuming you'll go into this fight favourite. There's some big fights looming, and I'll ask you who you would like to face. But yeah, it's a tough.
Absolutely, fight. It's not a sort of fight where it's not a comeback fight. Easy way back in it. He's number 5 at the WBC. I'm number 4, and he deserves to. He got a good win last time out with Egorov. He stopped Egorov, who was a really, really good fighter, and managed to stop him. Like you said, he can clearly punch. He's been beaten on close decisions, I think a split and a majority decision. So they're sort of this, you could dispute those losses as well. And really good fighter, and really tough and strong, and that's the motivation. That's what sort of, I think having a hard fight is what motivates me, because I think if you had an easy touch, it's harder to get up for it. It's harder to, especially like you said, like you've achieved all that, and then you've got a easy-ish fight, comeback fight, and you see it all the time. People come back and comeback fights with an easy touch, and they just look flat. They win on points, might even drop them, but they don't finish them. It's like just a flat performance. It's like, because that drive's not there, and that's the important thing. So for me, it's only big fights. That's all I want, and hard fights.
You need that, that competition. You need to be almost training scared.
To
get that extra percent.
It's not a fear of them as a person. It's a fear of defeat.
Exactly, failure. That's exactly what I would be like.
It's not, and that's not sort of the mindset. I'm not scared of losing. I always look at the opportunity of winning, but the task at hand, the challenge ahead, is what drives me.
So it's difficult me asking you this question, but I'm going to anyway, because you have a fight. But the goal here, you beat Brandon Glanton.
Yep.
All goes well. Is it to jump straight into a world title shot then? And if so, who would you like to fight?
Any of the champions.
Doesn't matter.
I can't be picky now.
No.
Obviously, this is a fight with WBC high rankings. Badu Jack's fighting the week after me against Ryan Rizicki, so the winner of that, or you got to be able to market the fight. I think Zurdo and Opataya, I think they want to fight each other by the looks of things. I know Zurdo's got a mandatory, Opataya's got a fight lined up.
Yep.
And is a fight against me as marketable for either of them? Probably not. They're going to want to fight the other one, which is understandable. If I was in their shoes, I'd be the same. I wouldn't want to be fighting one of them without a belt. If they didn't have a belt and I had the belts. So yeah, I think I need to, Zurdo's got 2, Opetai's got 1. If they want to fight each other, then I'll go for the Badou Jack who's next. But if the opportunity comes to fight one of the others, I'll fight them. And that's this is a stopgap fight which I must win, and then look at the champions after that.
With what you have achieved, are you driven now? Is the goal now to become, and you've got to pick one, is the goal now to win another world title, or whatever weight, let's say, or is it money orientated? Is there a figure or a title that is your desire to keep fighting?
I think the money comes with the title, really, when you look at the lay of the land, the names of the division. So it's hard to. Money is now a bigger driver than it's ever been because I've got a nearly 3-year-old son, got another baby on the way. So it's never been a motivator for me, money. Like, never been, really hasn't. Like, I've never been driven by money in my life. But now it definitely has changed more towards that, which is a good motivator, I think, because I'm not just doing it. Winning the world title was for me. Beating Riakporhe was for me. Becoming undisputed against Zurdo was for me. Selfish reasons. Yeah. Now I'm doing it more for my family, so it's more pressure on me, which I like. I like that pressure, and I think that's what drives me, keeps me going, because now it's, like I said, it's not just for me anymore. I can, you can let yourself down and you can deal with it and deal with that yourself. But when you're driving for other people, it's like, and it's your family, your own flesh and blood. It's a different type of motivation.
Would you take £1 million to fight Jake Paul, or £2 million to fight one of the cruiserweight world champions?
More money to fight a reputable fighter?
Yeah. This is Jake Paul, remember. So it would surely, in your case, be the easiest million you ever earn.
Yeah, no, but for me, in my head, you get I'd flip the question.
All right, okay, yeah.
Does that make sense?
Let's say this then. $1 million for each. For $1 million to face one of the champions at cruiserweight.
I'll tell you what, if it was $1 million to fight Opetaia or Zurdo or Badou Jack, or $2 million to fight Jake Paul, I'd rather fight for $1 million.
Would you really? Yeah.
Because the whole integrity chat, how we started about, the trash talk and stuff like that.
What about your 3-year-old son? You can go back to that.
I could do enough. We can have the right life. We can have the right life with $1 million, Darren.
That's not fair.
We can. It's not like if you start going down to sort of 50 grand to fight one of the champions, or $1 million to fight, Jake Paul, then it's different. But $1 million's a lot of money, and I can still have a good life, and you don't have to. And you don't, get all. Don't get me wrong. You'd earn even more than that off Jake Paul because of the aftermath, the sponsorship and whatnot. But I don't know. I'm a man of integrity as much as I can be. So I try and keep that integrity intact.
So that could be your last fight. To sign off with a cheeky $2 million.
Yeah.
Not that I think it's going to go anywhere near you, mate. What does boxing need more of or less of for the remainder of this year?
It's a good question. More people taking opportunities at a lower level, those 50-55, which with Turkey is kind of forced that to a degree. But doing it just because they're doing it, they get paid very well to take those opportunities, rather than doing it as a risk when there's a lot more on the line, rather than, it's okay if I lose this fight. Don't get me wrong, boxers should get paid well anyway, and it's not, you have to manage your fighter correctly, but those 50-50 fights that happen early on in your career, stop worrying about your undefeated record, which I think is edging towards that a little bit more.
Seems that way.
I think so. Less boxing, less media just hyping the wrong things. But that's that's not just boxing, is it? That's life. Media wants controversy. It wants headlines. It wants all those things. And, there's a little bit of, it's needed. The hype is needed around the media, but then, the people creating the hype are having to do extraordinary things rather than just be themselves. I think boxing can take a lot of personalities and genuine people away from the person they are, and they might even morph into a different character and over time become that character because boxing's forced it, because there hasn't been opportunity. So then they've done this and they've done that. And I've seen it before with lower level fighters that try and talk this, try and say something controversial just for a video to go viral. Just put in the work. And look at Golovkin. Golovkin's a perfect example.
Yeah. Just
went about his work, done it properly, big drama show, happy days. Do you know what I mean? And I love that. He's like, the way he goes about his business was very good. Klitschko was the same. There's a lot of respect there. Usyk's kind of the same, but funny with it. And, when you look at the level these days, they're more interested in their training and becoming a better fighter than becoming viral just to earn a quick buck, people are so caught on that. They're just trying to get viral, trying to get their followers up and all that. Just be good enough. So when you do get there, because I think that's how a lot of people struggle with their mental health in the sport, is because, they build their viral, but then the training takes a hit. And it's like, well, if you're not good enough and then you get to a level where you're really hyped and then you fall off the tree, that's a big, so a lot of people that you've got watching you fall out, fall off the tree or whatever it is.
We're well and truly on the same page here, because the product is that great. If you can use it to your best of your ability, then that should be enough. Golovkin, even Mike Tyson, really, he just had this scaremongering and he didn't even know that he was doing it half the time. Do you know what I mean? He just destroyed people, and that's enough. That's what people want to see. You go back thousands and thousands of years ago, people turned up to the Colosseum to see blood and guts, didn't they? And if you can do that, you will put bums on seats. How up to date are you on the current scene with fighters? Okay, so I was about to find out. Who's, in your opinion, the most underrated boxer in the UK right now? Anyone spring to mind?
Underrated boxer in the UK. I mean, it's close to home for me, but I'd go Ellie Scotney, because she just doesn't get the. It's hard because she hasn't got any big names. She's had some hard fights in her whole career. From early on, she's had hard fights, and that's how a career should be. She's had the right fights, tests the whole way through. She hasn't had any gimmies. Some of them she might have made look like gimmies because she's so good, but she's so underrated, and
such a legend.
Such a nice girl. And this is what I mean about people getting the right hype and stuff for the person they are, rather than them trying to be someone else. Absolute legend, Ellie, and she's got big year coming up, and I think she's massively underrated because she hasn't really had the big enough exposure, and she doesn't love the limelight, but she could be that sort of quiet assassin. Do you know what I mean? Because she's got a mean streak to her. Yes, she hasn't got any stoppages yet, but that's coming. I promise you, she's punching hard, and don't think the 2-minute rounds help her. But yeah, I think she's massively underrated. And people don't talk about her when they're talking about female boxing and stuff like that. And trying to think who else. There's plenty of talent around.
Ellie's ledge. I think that's a good shout. I really do. Would you consider a move to heavyweight?
Never say never, but not right now. I can't. I'm a person who believes that you do it the way Usyk did it. You complete a weight division and then you move up.
Yeah.
I don't think, unless you can't make the weight, then of course. But people just jump up because of the money and stuff like that and whatever. And I think you can move up for an opportunity. I think that makes sense, but I think too many people just move up through weight divisions or whatever just for the sake of it, just because, just for money most of the time. Like they move up because there's a money fight there, or there's someone in their division they don't want to fight. For me, I want to. If I won all the cruiserweight belts, then ask me again. Even then, I don't think I would. But
is that the wife and Lita?
Yeah, she want me. And as well, like my fighting style doesn't suit heavyweight. I get hit a lot, and there's big blokes. You know what I mean? Like I grit through a lot of fights, and I like to get close, and I like to not take shots, but like the way I fight isn't Floyd Mayweather, Shakur Stevenson slipping shots, shoulder rolling. That's not the way I fight. I'm always in battles, always brutal battles. So you can't. I'm wise enough to know that at heavyweight, that's a recipe for disaster, especially with a family at home.
We love you for your style, by the way. A little selfish, do you know what I mean? When you buy a ticket to watch you fight, you know you're going to watch a good one. Right, we're almost there. Your Mount Rushmore of boxing.
Muhammad Ali has to go on there. Sugar Ray Leonard. Evander Holyfield. Love watching Evander Holyfield.
Wow.
It's not necessarily that they're the best, but just like with Evander, like obviously phenomenal fighter of his era, but I just loved him. I think because he's a cruiserweight as well, and just so rough. Who would be my number 4? Because of when I grew up, I'd put Floyd Mayweather on there. I watched him against Canelo, and it was just a schooling. I was over in Vegas for that. So I think I'd put Floyd. Just when you look at him, and especially his progression through the years, like I think he obviously gets a lot of stick because of the way he is, but he gets a lot of stick, I think, because people watched his sort of super welterweight fights. We go and watch like lightweight Floyd, like, wow, what a fighter, man.
Incredible.
And he got buzzed, and he'd come back, and he had, it's like people think he didn't have heart a lot of the time because they only saw the later fights, but he got buzzed in fights, and he'd come back round and turn him round, and just boxed so many, phenomenal people, and just consistency builds success. He's always in the gym a couple of days out. He's always training, always on it, was always running at stupid o'clock in the morning. Like, and I think that is such a good lesson. Like, yes, he's got his unbeaten record and the flash lifestyle, but look at the work he did and what got him there. Like, he deserves to be unbeaten. He deserves those things. He does, because he put in that work. And so many fighters have time off in between fights and balloon up, go down. Like, we've all done it, and get out of shape and whatnot. But Floyd was just always on it, and I just admired that about him.
Right, you've had an unbelievable career up to date, and I know you're still going, and there's still a few more fights and goals and money to be earned for you. But from where you've come from with this little idea of getting fit through boxing to being where you are now, you're going to be on your third stadium fight, right?
Yeah.
Incredible. When you hang up the gloves one day and you've made your millions and you've achieved more world titles, how would you like to be remembered?
Just not just through boxing, but just the people who have met me, that they enjoyed my company. I was well mannered and respectful, and I gave it everything. And I think that's kind of what I always think about, is that I want to have given it everything in all walks of life. I want to be the best boxer I can be, the best father I can be, the best husband I can be. And that's kind of that whole consistency builds success mantra is that. And I think that's kind of how I want to be remembered. I was in entertaining fights. People loved watching me. People loved meeting me, and that's all I can ask for.
Well, I can definitely back up that. I enjoy the best compliment I can give you personally is I enjoy being in your company. I mean that.
I appreciate
From
that.
everyone at First Round TV, we wish you all the very best on April 26th. Hope you do the business. We hope you go on and win another world title. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
Chris. Thanks, mate. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. This one is huge. You can watch all the action live worldwide on DAZN, April 26th. Do not miss it.